Mr. Chair, we are now live.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Ajax Committee of Adjustment meeting for March 31st, 2021. This meeting of the Committee of Adjustment is being held electronically and live streamed on the internet. Due to the COVID-19 emergency and requirements for physical distancing, no in-person attendance is permitted at this meeting. All regular practices and procedures of the committee continue to apply during this electronic meeting. If we encounter any technical difficulties, we may take a brief recess while they are resolved. Thank you for your patience, and we will now proceed with the meeting. Before moving on to the application portion of the meeting, I would just like to confirm whether there are any disclosures of interest from members of committee.
There's none.
Seeing none, thank you. And if we can look for the adoption of minutes from the previous meeting, February 24th, 2021. See Cecil, thank you. And is there a seconder on the motion?
Wasif.
Sorry, thank you, Wasif. Great, seconded by Wasif. And all those in favor? Great, and the minutes from the February 24th meeting have been adopted. Thank you, everyone. The committee is bound by the Planning Act to assess each application based upon its ability to meet 4 tests: that the application is minor in nature, is desirable for the appropriate development or use of the lands, and finally is in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. The process for tonight's meeting will be conducted in the following manner. The applicant and/or agent will be called upon and at their option may provide a brief description of the minor variance application they have applied for. Committee members may ask questions of the applicant and/or agent, after which anyone with a direct interest in the application will be given the opportunity to speak either for or against the application. Once a motion is put forward by a committee member, there will be no further input from the applicant or anyone having interest in the application. After a decision is made, notice will be sent out and there will be a 20-day appeal period. Anyone having interest in the application may appeal to the local planning appeals tribunal within 20 days of the decision of the committee. After 20 days, the decision shall become final and binding. If a building permit or other approvals are required, they may be filed during the appeal period. However, no building permits will be issued until the appeal period is over and the decision shall become final and binding. A respectful decorum during this evening's proceedings is expected of all present at all times. Beginning with introductions of members of committee with us this evening, we have Cecil Ramnath, Wasif Ahmed, Lori Roberts, and I'm the chair of the committee, Greg Whitfield. And with us from town staff, we have Eric Simpson, planner with the town of Ajax, and Caitlin Grope, secretary treasurer and senior planner with the town of Ajax. The first application for tonight's meeting is application A6/21 for 20 Woodward Crescent. The variances being requested are to permit uncovered steps leading to an above grade entrance within the eastern interior side yard setback with a setback of 0.5 meters from the interior side lot line, whereas the zoning bylaw does not permit encroachments of stairs into a interior side yard setback. Caitlin, was notice served and were there any responses received?
I can confirm notice was served. We did not receive any written correspondence.
Great, thank you. And we did have the applicant sign on with us this evening. For the applicant, committee or town staff have recommended approval of the application subject to 3 conditions within the staff report. 1, that the subject variance apply only to the property municipally known as 20 Woodward Crescent and as shown on the site plan submitted with this application and found as figure 2 within the report, or this decision shall become null and void. 2, that the owner or applicant maintain the historical drainage on the property, or this decision shall become null and void. And 3, that the owner or applicant obtain all necessary building permits from the town's building services section, or this decision shall become null and void. For the applicant, have you received a copy of the staff report?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. I'm the applicant as Mohammed, and yes, we did receive this report, and as recommended, we are in course with that. We would proceed with the recommendations without any concern for us.
Great, thank you. If you have anything you'd like to add to the application, now is your chance to discuss with committee.
Not really, Mr. Chair. So we are satisfied with what the city is recommending us to do in order to get this approved, and we would follow the city's recommendation so that we can move forward in this process.
Great, thank you very much. And for members of committee, are there any questions for the applicant? Lori?
I'm not too sure if it's the applicant or staff chair that I'm just curious, the stairs for the door, is there stairs going up and stairs going down, like so you can access the backyard as well from those stairs?
Through the chair, I can answer that. Yes, there is a
Thank
step
you.
going up one side and then back down the other side. So there is continuous access to the backyard.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And Cecil?
Yes, through the chair, I understand that the applicant is agreeing to the 3 conditions as supplied by staff. And I also noted in the write-up that that if the applicant were to consider an accessory apartment, that he could be required to submit an application for a minor variance at that point in time. And I was wondering whether the applicant is aware of that. He is in agreement with that. Just want a yes or no answer.
Yes, I'm aware of that. If required, we would apply for a minor variance at a later stage too for the parking requirement.
Thank you very much.
And Wasif, did you still have a question? I thought I saw your hand come up. No. Great. Okay. All right. Is there any further questions for the applicant from members of committee? Seeing none, thank you. Is there anyone here to speak either for or against the application this evening? Seeing none, in that case, if we can look for a motion on the application, please. Oh, everyone all at once. Who would like to take responsibility for this one?
I can go.
Okay, Wasif, thank you. And is there a seconder on the motion, please? Lori, thank you very much. And all those in favor? Great, thank you everyone. Application A6/21 for 20 Woodward Crescent is approved, subject to the 3 conditions within the staff report and the 20-day appeal period.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to application A8/21 for 1 McCourt Drive. The variance requested this evening is to permit a maximum driveway width of 5.4 meters, whereas the bylaw requires a maximum permitted driveway width of 5 meters. Is the applicant with us this evening?
Yeah, good evening, Chair. I'm the owner of 1 McCourt Drive, Joseph Thomas.
Great, thank you. Town staff have written a staff report recommending approval of the application, subject to 4 conditions within the staff report. Pardon me. 1, that the subject variance apply only to the property municipally known as 1 McCourt Drive and as shown on the site plan submitted within this application and found as figure 2 within the report, or this decision shall become null and void. 2, that the driveway widening apply only to the private side of the property, or this decision shall become null and void. 3, that the owner or applicant maintain the historical drainage on the property, or this decision shall become null and void. And 4, that the owner or applicant obtain all necessary building permits from the town's building services section, or this decision shall become null and void. For the applicant, have you received a copy of this report?
Yes, I have.
Great, thank you. And do you have any questions or comments on the conditions recommended by staff?
No, I agree with all the recommendations.
Great. Well, if there is anything else that you would like to add for discussion on your application, now's your opportunity.
No, I'm good. I agree with all the recommendations and working on it.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions from members of committee for the applicant? Lori.
Thank you, Chair. To staff, I just wanted a little bit of clarification. On the report, in the design services, it says ensure driveway widening only applies to private side of the property. Can you just elaborate what that means?
Sure, through the chair. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat as well. So that basically means that they can only widen the driveway within their private property. They are not able to widen the boulevard section of the driveway.
Okay, and to the applicant, just wanted to ensure that you understand that it's, if you have a driveway, then that means everything, or sorry, if you have a sidewalk, that means everything above your sidewalk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Great. And before I move on, Caitlin, can you just confirm if notice was served and any responses received on the application? My apologies for skipping over that.
Sure, and I completely forgot as well. I can confirm notice was served. We did not receive any written correspondence.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions from members of committee for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you. And is there anyone here to speak either for or against the application this evening? Seeing none, thank you. Okay, in that case, if we can look for a motion from members of committee. Laurie, I think I saw your hand first there.
Thanks, Chair. I recommend that we approve application A6-21 as it is minor in nature. It meets all the tests and subject to the 4 conditions.
Great, thank you. And is there a seconder on the motion, please?
I think that was just a point. Was that A621 or A821?
Should be A8. I heard that too.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Sorry, in the report that I'm looking at, it says A6. Sorry about that. The one that's on the screen.
Oh yeah, I see
That
that.
is an error in the recommendation. You're right. It is listed correctly under the subject line.
Okay, so just for clarification, application A8/21, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Sorry, seconder on the motion, Wasif, did I see your hand? Great, thank you. And all those in favor? Great, application A8/21 is approved, subject to the conditions within the staff report and the 20-day appeal period.
Thank you.
Moving on to application A9/21 for 185 and 195 Westney Road. Variances requested tonight are to permit a minimum lot area of 3,264 square meters for the property at 185 Westney Road South, where the zoning bylaw requires a minimum lot area of 4,200 square meters, and to permit a minimum drive aisle width of 3 meters each for 185 and 195 Westney Road South in conjunction with a shared access easement, where the bylaw requires a minimum perpendicular drive aisle width of 7 meters for 2 directions and a minimum perpendicular drive aisle width of 6.7 meters for 2 directions when a parking space, the angle of an adjacent parking space is 60 to 90 degrees. Caitlin, was notice served and were any responses received?
I can confirm notice was served. We did not receive any written correspondence.
Great, thank you. And is the applicant with us this evening?
I am here, yes.
Great, thank you. For the applicant, town staff have recommended approval of the application, subject to 2 conditions within the staff report. 1, that the minimum drive aisle width of 3 meters only apply to the existing drive aisle that is subject to the proposed reciprocal access agreements, access easements per land division applications LD 004/2021 and LD 005/2021. And 2, that the owner applicant obtain final approval of land division applications LD 003/2021, LD 004/2021, and LD 005/2021 to the satisfaction of the town, or this decision shall become null and void. For the applicant, have you received a copy of the staff report?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have received it yesterday. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. And do you have any questions or comments on the conditions recommended by staff?
No, we're satisfied with the staff report and the conditions there.
Great, thank you. Well, if you want to introduce yourself and if you have anything you'd like to add to your application.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee and staff. My name is Andrew Glass. I'm here on behalf of the Westy Ridge properties. We're the owners of the property at 185, 195 Westy Road. I had, I had a presentation prepared for this, and then I read the staff report and realized that I really couldn't do any better than the staff had done in their report. So I think I'll just leave it with you, and if any questions of the committee, I'm happy to answer any of those questions.
Great, thank you. Cecil?
Yeah, through the chair, I have a question for the applicant. I was just wondering whether he could sort of walk us through the change that is being proposed? I know it's technical in nature, but I was wondering whether he's got all the technical wherewithals at his fingertips there to sort of.
Sure, I can go, if I could, I'll make reference to the,
Yeah.
use page 8 of the staff report, which is the draft 40R plan. If you have that in front of you, it might be helpful.
Maybe we could throw that up on the screen. Is that the last page?
Yes, it is.
I believe it's figure 2, Sarah.
Yeah, that's probably the most easy one to make reference to. So this application flows from a land division committee meeting back on January the 11th, which what we did is a little bit of planning gymnastics here, but there were 2 properties here in the past. So you see, I can't point to it here, but there's a dark heavy line that runs sort of through the middle of the property, just below where it says part 4. So there were 2 parts here at one point in time. And what we've done is we've actually moved that lot line adjustment to move that lot line to between part 2 and part 3. So part 1 and part 2 are the severed parcel, part 3, 4, and 5 become the retained parcel. So now what we have is part 3 will have an easement in favor of part 1 for access, and part 2 will have an easement in favor of part 3, 4, and 5 for access as well. So the access, those 2 parts are where the driveway is located, and that's where we need the variance for to reduce the minimum width of that drive aisle from down to 6 meters essentially, because it varies a little bit in there. So we've asked for a variance from 7 meters to 6 meters, and they're subject to a mutual and reciprocal operating agreement between the 2 properties to ensure that both properties have access in perpetuity. That deals with the variance for the access, the reduction in the size of the width of the driveway, and of course, part 1 and 2, the area of that new lot that's created is 3,264 square meters, which requires the variance from the bylaw requirement of 4,200 square meters. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it's much clearer. So, in fact, the lower portion then is being moved up north a bit, and part 1 is becoming much smaller than it was.
Yeah, part 1 and 2 become the new property, the new parcel. Yeah, they get a little bit smaller. It kind of corrects a funny. We're not sure how this happened back in the history of this thing, but the building is shown on the south here in part 4.
Yes.
Seem to span across 2 properties, and so this is kind of correcting that technical issue from the past as well.
Okay, now the driveway, I'm sorry, through the chair, if I can ask another question. So the driveway that is going to serve both parts, will that be narrower now, or will it be just as wide?
The driveway itself will remain exactly as it is today.
Okay, is there going to be like a median in between the driveway going east and west?
No, there will not.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have no further questions, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from members of committee this evening?
I do have one more question, if I can ask. I'm sorry.
Sure, Cecil.
To staff, has there in the past, has there been, in terms of traffic in and out, has there been any accidents, near misses, etc., that's being reported that could be cause for concern of, that we should know about?
Through the chair, not that I'm aware of. However, traffic and any accidents have nothing to do specifically with this minor variance application. This is just legally recognizing some conditions that resulted from legally kind of rectifying the existing conditions. So there's nothing here to trigger a traffic impact study or anything of that nature.
I understand. Thank you very much. I was just curious, just thought I'd ask the question. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Cecil. One maybe a point of clarification for staff, if you wouldn't mind. Could you provide more insight into the planning instruments that prevented the lots from merging on title despite common ownership after the initial severances?
Yeah, so it's kind of a unique situation. Although they were in the same name of ownership, under the Planning Act, there is kind of like a rule of thumb that says once a consent, always a consent. So I believe it would have been the severed parcel. Even though it was in the same name of ownership, it wouldn't merge because there was a consent granted. However, because they were because they were in the same name of ownership, this prevented the owner from selling the retained parcel. So that's why they wanted to, this is what this does, it rectifies that. And while they were doing that, if they want to sell the parcel, it needed to be fixed because right now you have a building straddling lot lines. So basically, by moving that lot line, because they were still in the same name of ownership, ended up merging them because now you've changed the original boundaries of the consent. So now that they merged, they had to do a severance application. So it resulted with like an overly complicated process, basically just to fix a lot line.
Great, thank you, Eric. Any further questions from members of committee? Seeing none, thank you. Is there anyone here to speak either for or against the application? Seeing none. Okay, and if we can look for a motion on the application, please. Wasif.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to propose that the committee approve application A921 for 185 and 195 Westney Road South on the condition that, or with the two conditions in the staff report, on the basis that it is minor in nature and meets the 4 tests.
Great, thank you, Wasif. And is there a seconder on the motion, please? Lori, thank you. And all those in favor? Great, thank you, everyone. Application A9/21 is approved, subject to the 2 conditions within the staff report and the 20-day appeal period.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Have a good evening. Okay, and moving on to our final application for the evening, application A10/21 for 162 Dooley Crescent. The variance requested is to permit uncovered steps leading to a below-grade entrance within the western interior side yard with a setback of 0.3 meters from the western interior side lot line, whereas the bylaw does not permit uncovered steps leading to or from a principal building or platform within an interior side yard. Caitlin, was notice served and were any responses received?
I can confirm notice was served. We did not receive any written correspondence.
Great, thank you. And is the applicant with us this evening?
I'm here to represent the applicant. I'm the brother.
Okay, and sorry, your name?
Sutaharan Kanisamurthy. Suta Kanisamurthy.
Okay, great, thank you. For the applicant, staff have written a report recommending approval of the application subject to 3 conditions. 1, that the subject variance apply only to the property municipally known as 162 Dooley Crescent and as shown on the site plan submitted with this application and found as figure 2 within the report, or this decision shall become null and void. 2, that the owner or applicant maintain the historical drainage on the property, or this decision shall become null and void. And 3, that the owner or applicant obtain all necessary building permits from the town's building services section, or this decision shall become null and void. For the applicant, do you have any questions or comments on the conditions within the staff report?
No, so we'll proceed based on the conditions.
Great, Thank you. And if you have anything you'd like to add, now's your opportunity.
No, based on the staff report and the approval, we'll proceed with these conditions.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of committee? Wasif?
Through the chair to staff, I noticed on the diagram, figure 2, there isn't an indication of where the AC unit is or the gas line. So is that, can I just assume that it's on the other side of the house and there's no impediment there going leading to the stairs or from the stairs to the backyard?
Through the chair, just give me 1 minute and I can pull up the original site plan. In that time it takes me to do that, perhaps the applicant can address that question.
Yeah, so the AC is on the other side of the house, and in terms of gas line has been moved, and the staff would have seen that it's been moved on to.
Staff, you're off the hook. Thank you, Mr. Applicant.
Thanks.
And any other questions from members of committee? Lori?
Just again, either one, the applicant or staff can answer. Thank you, Chair. These stairs, the same question as the other application, are these an up and down set of stairs as well to get to the backyard, gain access to the backyard?
Backyard is on the sideways, so it has nothing to do with the backyard. It's more to the side.
Through the chair, I can answer that question. Yep, so there are steps going down and then to a landing and then steps back up. So there is continuous access. It's basically the access from the front yard to the rear yard of the property.
Yeah, sorry.
So you have to use those stairs to gain access from the side of the house. You have to use the stairs to gain access to the back?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any further questions from members of committee? Wasif?
Sorry, just a follow-up to my colleague's question. To staff or the applicant, are we talking about 2 steps up and 2 steps down, or are we just talking 1 step up and down?
Through the chair, I believe there's 2 steps down coming from the front yard, and then there's 3 steps up based on the grade of the property.
Okay. Any further questions from members of committee? Seeing none. Oh, sorry, Lori.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, this is more of a curiosity question, and I apologize, but when we approve applications and there's the only way to get to the backyard is to go through over these sets of stairs, is there any consideration for emergency services if there needed to be I forget what it's called, but the bed on wheels that goes through, they're having to deal with those stairs. Is that taken into consideration for applications such as this or situations such as this?
Through the chair, we do circulate the applications to Fire and Emergency Services, all minor variance applications. So if they had any concerns relating to this, they would comment on it. Thus far, the committee has dealt with a number of side yard entrances, and there have never been any issues with regard to that. I know, I guess there is through emergency services. I'm not a paramedic, but I know that they would take that into consideration. I believe the stretcher wheels can drop and lift, to maneuver through the stairs, but we do circulate to Fire and Emergency Services regarding that.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Great. Any further questions from committee? Seeing none. Is there anyone here to speak either for or against the application this evening? And seeing none. In that case, if we can look for a motion on the application, please. Wasif?
Through the chair, I'd like to propose that the committee approve application A1021 for 162 Dooley Crescent, based on that it is minor in nature, meets the 4 tests, and subject to the 3 conditions as outlined in the staff report.
Great, thank you. And is there a seconder on the motion, please? Lori, thank you. And all those in favor? Great, thank you, everyone. Application A10/21 for 162 Dooley Crescent is approved, subject to the 3 conditions within the staff report and the 20-day appeal period. And that concludes the application portion of this evening's meeting. Moving on to other business or new matters. Does anyone have any items they'd like to discuss before we sign off? No? Well, in that case, if we can look for a motion to adjourn, please. I think I saw Cecil, your hand first. And a seconder. Lori, thank you. All those in favor? Great, thank you. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming out tonight, everyone.